Okay. We're recording.
Fantastic.
Welcome. All right.
So for those of you who don't know us, I'm Denise Mend.
And I'm Paul Mend.
And we're leads here at GrowthU. And this is part of our weekly webinar series where this is number 2. We've done a few of these, but
this is our consistent weekly.
This is our second in a row. And really trying to add more value to give you actionable tools that you will go away with tonight or whatever time it is in the world where you are. It might be morning, it might be evening. I think most people are probably afternoon, evening.
I think so.
Yeah. But you will go away with some actionable tools to help you become more. And so tonight we're going to talk about habits. And why don't habits stick? And why, when we try to do something new, it's not staying around. What are those things? So for those of you who are on, hello, yeah, hi all, awesome. I would love to hear from you about things that you've tried to change that haven't stuck for you. So if you feel comfortable, please put it in the comments. What are ones that you've tried, Paul, in the past that haven't stuck around? Good question.
Okay, one that I said recently that I was going to make a change to was I was going to start reading more.
Oh, that's a good one.
I was going to start reading more, and it didn't happen yet. Yeah. Still, and why hasn't that happened? Because my why is not strong enough. Because if my why was strong enough, I would make it happen. So I need to put a little leverage on myself.
Yeah.
For why I want.
Yeah. So we'll talk.
And I have read a little bit more.
Yeah.
Than I was reading prior to that, but still not to the extent that I want to read.
We will talk about that a little bit, and why is your purpose? Why do you want to change something? But I'm gonna share a screen, you guys. Let's see here. This is always the challenging part when we're sharing screens on computers, is making sure that I'm sharing the thing that I want to share. Here we go. Okay, so we're going to go to view. Oh, are you there? I am. We're going to go there. There we go. And there. There we go.
Good job.
Okay. That was a lot of steps.
That was a lot of
steps. So habits and patterns form our identity. And do we have identities in multiple areas in our lives?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Can you describe what a domain is? What's a domain?
A domain is, it could be an area in your life. It could be your family. It could be your career. It could be your health. Anything where you spend time, right? So career, we spend a lot of our time there. Family, we spend a lot of our time with our family. Our health and energy. Sometimes that gets left behind. Sometimes we can leave that. Reading, my reading identity is non-existent right now, so I need to create that identity. But it's any area in our life in which we put energy towards.
We play roles in all sorts of areas of our life. Parent, sister, brother, uncle, aunt.
Son, daughter, grandfather, whatever
cousin,
that looks like.
Yeah, coworker, boss. Yeah, you name it. There's probably as many identities as ideas in our head, right? So when we think about an identity, it's made up of all sorts of behaviors that we do. And we create it. One's probably the biggest formation of identity. Now, Paul, we should say, taught psychology to high school students for over 20 years.
I did. So
he's seen a lot of identity shifting.
Well, if we look at the psychologists in this area, like Piaget, Erickson, there's a number of psychologists that work in this area that have worked in this area and talked about identity, right? And so when we hit adolescence, when that formal operation stage hits at around 11 or 12 or 13 years old, when that puberty chemistry hits the prefrontal cortex and we start to go through that restructuring process, we start to create identities. We start to see the world in a different view than we saw it as a child. And we spend the rest of our lives creating identities. Sometimes they're created for us based on who we spend time around. And other times we've just created an identity based on what references we had to who we wanted to be. And so that identity formation takes place early on in adolescence, and it continues on throughout life, because we can change our identity at any point in time in a certain area and realm of our life that we choose to.
But
Right?
many of the things that we use as our autopilot, we probably formed when we were children.
Absolutely. It's our
Yeah.
unconscious, right?
Yeah.
Our unconscious, and our brain's number one job is keep us safe.
Yes.
Right? And what we know is when we change, and change is scary, that means uncertainty. And most people don't like uncertainty because it's our brain telling us, whoa, 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 that's a scary spot to be. So let's keep us where we're certain, where we know what we know, and change doesn't have to be scary.
And that is in a nutshell why it's difficult to create change and change habits. Why don't they stick? Because our unconscious brain does not want us to change. If it had its way, we would stay the same forever.
Absolutely.
And that's no fun.
No.
And also it's the big decline.
All right. So what are these arrows we're looking at?
What are these arrows? Well, what are the three main ways that we can create significant change?
So there they are.
There they are. So who here, and again, if you feel comfortable, I would love for you to put in the comments, was there a significant emotional event in your life that you remember being foundational? Like when this happened, I became, right? So for me, having children, when we had children, right? We had children
We
together. Yeah. I mean, I gave birth. He had a
I
big
was
role to
involved.
play. Yes. And that was a significant emotional event for our relationship. And when I became a mother, Paul became a father, that's an example of something that shifts you, that alters you forever, right? And so if you have, any of you watching, have a significant emotional event that you can remember, that when that happened, I was changed. And it can be in a way that helped you become something you desired, or it could be something that altered you in a way that you didn't desire, right? So if you have an example, I would love to hear it. Do you have one that you remember that was a significant emotional event?
Other than having
emotional event for you?
children, I think the biggest significant emotional event was losing my mom when I was almost 9 years old.
Yeah.
I was 8 at the time.
Yeah.
And obviously at the time that happened, that was one of the, biggest crushing emotional things that had ever happened in my young life at that point in time. And I had a lot of difficulty processing that over the next several years. And it had a big impact on my life. And looking back on it, I look at it as a really positive thing that happened, because it created me to who I became. It created my identity of having empathy and becoming the person that I became, and having that empathy towards other people. And, as a teacher, I think I showed a lot of that empathy to my students. And so my relationship with students was a very positive one. And I think, the psychology class that I taught was like the most popular elective in the school, because kids could come in and not feel judged, and they were open to, having discussions and being vulnerable in class, and that was okay.
We get messages from young adults all the time telling Paul what an influence he was as an educator on them. So I would agree that event, as
tragic as
horrible as it was, that it formed a seed of kindness in you that I don't see in many people.
And at the time, you couldn't have told me this was a good thing, right?
No.
There was nothing good about it. It was all bad.
Yeah.
But looking back over the years and looking at who I became because of that event, I look at it as a thank goodness that happened, because I wouldn't probably have ended up where I ended up to meet my wife and have the children that we have. So I'm very grateful for where we are and everything that we have around us. And had that not happened, the story might have been written differently.
So that's the number one way that people create change, is a significant emotional event. And it can be very life altering, as we've discussed, right? So, it's not always the easiest way to make change.
No.
So
we don't recommend doing significant emotional events all the time to change your life.
No, it can be fairly
stressful.
traumatic.
Stressful, traumatic.
So the next way is environment. So talk a little bit about how environment shapes the habits that we use, or changes how we
Well,
show up.
another word for environment is nurture, right? And so when the psychologists speak about nurture, they talk about nature. Nature is our, physiological DNA makeup, and nurture is everything that happens to us in the environment. So where we live, where we grew up, the mentors that we had, the parents, the toolbox that was built based on the toolbox that was given to us, either from our caregivers, our parents, whoever that was, your grandparents, whoever raised you, those are the tools you have in your toolbox. Now, if you had the tools put in your toolbox that could fix a 1972 Volkswagen Beetle, but you want to drive a Tesla, you may need to put some new tools in your toolbox. And so the reference that I make there is an analogy to, if I want to become something different than who I am right now, I may need to put new tools in my toolbox in order to become that person that I want to be. And I might need to use references that are not necessarily in my environment currently. I may need to reach out for other references if I want something that's out of my comfort zone.
Yeah, yeah. So, our environment includes the friends that we have.
Yeah.
It includes the people that we socialize with, our coworkers, and all of
our work environment.
Our work environment.
Anything that
the television shows that we watch, the news that we consume, the fun things that we do, all of that leads to us having ideas and patterns and habits that are built on those associations. So our environment is a big part of who we are. So if I change my environment, that's another way that I can change, right? So what's the saying? You are the sum total of the 5 people you hang around with the most.
Yep.
And there could be some debate there. And we know that if you are hanging with people that are doing things that you feel are healthy for you, if you have a running group that you go with, if you have a hiking group, if you have a music group that you see once a week, a reading club, if you do things that are fostering things that you desire to be and do,
this is good.
That's an environment that you want to stay in. If you're in an environment where the behaviors are different,
there's a lot of negativity.
Yeah, or your peer group likes to go out every weekend and have a really good time, and you wake up with a headache in the morning. Maybe that's an environment that, if you're loving that, great. And if it's not getting you the results that you want
in your health and energy,
you might
want to make some
feel
changes
about changing. So that leads us to the third thing,
which is conditioning,
right? So that is what we do here at Growth U, is we work on habits consistently over time to become more. So how long, Mr. Psychology Teacher, does it take to change a habit? And this is a question we get asked many times.
And this is up for debate. If you look on the internet, you'll see 21 days, you'll see 30 days, you'll see 45 days, 60 days. And ultimately, what you're trying to do is you're trying to create a new neural pathway in your brain, right? If you think about a grass field and you walk across that grass field one day, you come back the next day and the grass is all standing up. You can't tell where you walked. You walk on it a second day, a third day, a fourth day. You come back maybe on the 5th or 6th day. Now the grass is bent over. You can actually see where you went. And if you continue to walk on that for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, eventually there's going to be a well-worn dirt path that goes through this field because you've now created this path. Well, that's what's going on in our brain. We're laying down neural pathways, that neurons that fire together, wire together. And the more that we do it, it creates a neural pathway, which then becomes a habit. Now, here's the cool thing is that we can create new habits. We can create new patterns that we want that will help us achieve our vision, whatever that might be, in whatever area of our life that we're trying to do it in. But also realize that the old patterns will always be there. They don't die. They don't go away. And if our physiological needs are not being met, if we're thirsty, we're tired, we're hungry, those old patterns will just rise right up to the top. And the beauty with hanging out in Growth U is that after you've been here for a little while, you start to recognize those old patterns. When they show up, you might say, I see you, I see that pattern, but you know what, you don't serve me right now. Or you might be, you know what, I see that pattern and I'm going to be grumpy for a little bit just because I want to feel grumpy, but I'm going to snap out of it because I know that that's not going to serve me. And I need to let it go and say, I see you, I feel you, and you're not serving me right now. I'm going to move into a different direction.
Let me ask the people that are on live, do you have any examples of habits you've tried to change that haven't stuck? and I'll give you time to write in the comments. And if you don't have one, that's absolutely okay. And what's an example of a habit that you have tried to change besides reading? Or actually, let's use that example. You tried to get reading, and what happens to stop you? What does your brain do?
It finds other things to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Can you
don't
give
know.
us an example?
I don't have time. I need to scroll on Facebook. I need to go work in the garden. I need to go play disc golf. I need to go stand up paddleboarding. I need to go to the gym and work out. I don't have time to read right now. I've got work I need to do on the computer. I need to sign in with GrowthU. I need to do a program. I need to do something. It's not that I don't read necessarily, because some of the things that I do read within. However, reading for my own time is something that I need to.
So that was a great description of justification.
Absolutely. Rationalizing. I can rationalize anything.
And I'm sure many of you can relate that when you've tried to do something new, so for example, going to the gym, right? You go, you get a membership, you're all excited, you go for the first week, and then, you know, those justifications start to creep in. Like, oh, my friend Jody's not going to be there, so I'm not going to go today. Or, oh, I'm a bit tired this morning, so I'm going to just hit the snooze button. I'll go tomorrow, right? So our brain is really smart. Those patterns we have are very smart, and they're very sneaky. So what will happen is that when stop eating in the middle of the night. Yes, Bob. That's a really good one. Yes. So my brain will I'll wake up and go, oh, I'm hungry. I need to eat right now. I can't wait until morning, right? And I bet Bob has a pattern interrupt that he uses to stop this habit. But when we hear those little excuses or justifications, that is the old pattern that you're trying to change. So for the example of going to the gym, I have an old pattern of not going to the gym. And he says, not one that's been effective yet.
And he says, yep, I rationalize just all the time.
So you guys, that is just your unconscious brain trying to keep you the same. So now that you know this, now that you know this is what your brain is doing, you can recognize it and go, aha, there's a justification. And when you hear a justification, then you can go, okay, do I really want to go to the gym every day, right? Or twice a week or 3 times a week? Do I really want to read a book 3 times a week, right? Do I really want to not eat in the middle of the night? So if you really want that, what are some things that people can do from a conditioning perspective, Paul?
Awesome.
To help.
Well, I'm just looking at Tammy's comment here. The gym, healthy eating, dishes. I could go on.
Yeah.
All right. So start small, right? Like so the one thing is, if you go, let's say, cold turkey, and you just try and jump straight into it, 2 things are going to happen. One, we're excited. We're going to be like, oh, I'm going to do this. And then 4 to 5 days later, your old patterns are going, this is too hard. What are you doing? Stop. You'll justify and rationalize why
they will come fast and furious,
and you'll quit right before you move into what we call transformation and identity. So in order to make that happen, we call it stealth mode. So stay below the absolute threshold of your brain going, hey, you're changing. Like, start small, but start consistent. So if I want to do 200 push-ups in a row, I'm not going to try and do 200 push-ups in a row on the first day, because I'll hurt myself and that'll be it. I'll be like, this is too hard, I can't do it. But if I start with 5 push-ups for a week, and I get consistent with doing that every day for a week, and then the next week, maybe I do 10 push-ups every day for a week, and my brain's going, oh, you can do 5 push-ups, that's not a big deal. Like, you're not even doing anything here. And then the next week, you can do 10, it's not a big deal. So the old patterns and the old justification rationalization aren't kicking in, because you're staying below that threshold of your brain going, whoa, this is not safe, right? So anything that we want to change, if we do it in a small increment step, but we're consistent with it on a daily basis, that's how we create change, right? That's how we create change. And so there's 3 ways. There's 3 ways that we can do that.
You were reading my mind.
I was reading your mind.
Yeah.
So one is your leverage or your purpose is strong. If you went to the doctor and the doctor said,
purpose we were talking about.
You need to quit smoking or you're going to die, okay, I'll quit smoking. I don't want to die. Right? That's leverage right there, right? Your doctor says, don't do this. Okay, fair enough. So that's one. That's leverage or purpose. The second one is that significant emotional event that we spoke about earlier, right? So something big happens and you're like, that's it, I'm changing, like, because whatever. And in a sense, I guess that doctor saying you're going to die if you don't stop doing this, that could be a significant emotional event in itself as well.
Yeah.
And then the third way is having an accountability group, right? So if you tell 5 of your closest friends, hey, I'm going to do X, Y, or Z, please hold me accountable and check in with me daily, please. Then now all of a sudden, you may not want to do it, but you're like, oh, I told my friends I was going to do this, so I need to do this because they're going to check in on me. And if I say that I didn't do it, then they're going to hold me accountable.
And the longer we do that, you create that neural pathway that Paul talked about. So the more you do that, now your unconscious brain is sitting up and paying attention that, oh, maybe they really do want this. And then you start to encourage that pattern. And if that pattern is good for you, meaning that, it's helping you to be healthier, it's helping you to achieve the things that you say you want, it's helping you to become more, it's good for your environment and the people around you, your brain will encourage you to do it more and more the more you do it.
Once we've done it for 30 days, 45 days, 60 days, 90 days, it now becomes an identity.
Yeah.
So the toughest thing for me over the past 2 weeks, we've just getting over COVID, was not being able to go to the gym for the past 2 weeks. My identity is like, I go to the gym 3-4 times a week and I'm working out and I'm paddleboarding and I'm getting
so much
outside
so that he went before he was ready. And
it may have set me back a
he
little bit.
set himself
I thought
back
I felt
a
better.
little bit.
Day 7, I was like, yeah, let's go. I'm going to the gym and I'm going to go for a round of disc golf. And
we're fine and healthy.
And we're fine and healthy now. Day 8 was not good.
And that's when you know you're an identity. If you don't feel well and you really still want to do something, that you're an identity in that domain in your life.
I like Bob's comment here. Constant, never-ending improvement.
Yes.
Yeah. Kenny.
So for the people who are on live, do you have any questions? Do you have any comments? We love to hear from you. Know that anything that you desire to change, if you are consistent and you get an accountability group, that is the most powerful way to change over time, that is potentially not as traumatic as a significant emotional event.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Speaking of significant emotion, what program do we have coming up next? I think it's Activate, isn't it?
It is Activate.
That starts on June
27th.
I believe.
And Activate is the art of being more productive. So if you desire to be more productive in your life, to get more done in less time,
keep an eye out.
Keep an eye out. But we will be back next week.
Yeah.
And we are going to talk about another model.
Do you know which one we're talking
about?
So stay
tuned. It's going to be a surprise.
Okay.
You're going to have to check in next week. So look for emails in your inbox. You will receive them the Monday morning before with all the details. And we look forward to seeing you again.
Excuse me. Thanks for joining us.
All right, you guys. Love to all of you. Have an amazing week.
You're welcome, Denise. See you,
We'll
Bob.
see you next week.
See you, Michael.
Bye.
Bye, Tammy.